Yo, what if everything you were taught about debt was backwards? Every parent, every teacher, every financial advisor told you the same thing. Avoid debt. Stay out of debt. Debt is bad. And while broke people were following that advice religiously, the richest Americans were using debt to build empires. Not despite debt, because of debt. And today we're pulling back the curtain on exactly how they do it. Here's the fundamental difference nobody explains. The average American uses debt to buy things that lose value. A depreciating car, a vacation that's over in a week, the latest iPhone, designer clothes. The wealthy use debt to buy things that make them money. Real estate, businesses, cash-flowing assets. Same tool, completely opposite results. Because here the truth, debt isn't good or bad. It's just a tool. A hammer can build your dream home or smash a window. Depends entirely on who's holding it and what they're building. The rich understand this at a deep level. Most Americans never figure it out, and that gap costs them decades of wealth. Alright, way number 1. Real estate leverage. This is the OG wealth building strategy, and it's still working right now in 2025. Instead of saving $300,000 cash to buy a property outright, which would take most Americans 10 to 15 years, wealthy investors put down a fraction, maybe $60,000, and the bank finances the rest. Here's where it gets wild. On that $300,000 rental property, a tenant moves in. Their rent covers most or all of the mortgage payment, so someone else is essentially paying down your debt every single month. Meanwhile, you control a $300,000 asset with $60,000. That's 5x leverage, and it's completely legal, completely normal, completely available to anyone. Fast forward 20 years, that property is now worth $600,000. The mortgage is nearly paid off by tenants, not by you. Rent has increased multiple times, and you built $540,000 in wealth starting with $60,000. That's the power of leverage, and it's one reason why real estate created more American millionaires than almost anything else. Way number 2, business expansion through debt. Most people think successful businesses were built with cash savings. Most of them used loans to grow faster than their competition. Think about it. Every McDonald's franchise, every Starbucks location, most small businesses you walk into, built with borrowed money strategically deployed. Picture this. You own a business doing $50,000 a year in profit. A $200,000 business loan lets you open a second location, hire a manager, serve twice the customers. Now you're doing $120,000 a year. The loan costs you $15,000 a year in interest. Net gain, $55,000 more per year than before the loan. That's not debt trapping you. That's debt multiplying you. And here's the mindset shift that separates entrepreneurs from employees. Regular people ask, how do I avoid debt? Wealthy business owners ask, does this debt earn me more than it costs? If a $100,000 loan costs $8,000 a year in interest but generates $40,000 in new profit, that's a $32,000 gain every year. That single question, does this debt pay me more than it costs, changes everything. Way number 3, investment leverage. Now heads up, this one is higher risk. Requires discipline, not for beginners, but wealthy investors often use borrowed capital to amplify their returns. If you invest $100,000 of your own money and it grows 10%, you made $10,000. If you used leverage and controlled $300,000 with that same $100,000, that 10% growth returns $30,000. 3 times the return on your actual money invested. But here's what separates smart leverage from gambling. The losses get amplified too. A 10% drop on $300,000 is $30,000 gone. This is why wealthy investors obsess over risk management. They don't just ask, what's the upside? They ask, what's the worst case scenario, and can I survive it? That discipline is what separates wealth builders from people who blow up their finances. Because the rich don't take blind risks, bro. They calculate everything. Cash flow projections, debt service ratios, exit strategies, worst case modeling. Warren Buffett's first rule of investing, never lose money. His second rule, never forget rule number 1. The wealthy use debt, but they respect it. They never let it control them. Way number 4, buying cash-flowing assets with debt. This is where things get really interesting, because the holy grail of wealth building is owning something that pays you every month, more than it costs you. That's called positive cash flow, and debt can help you acquire it. Here's a real example. You borrow $500,000 to buy a small apartment building with 4 units. Each unit rents for $1,500 a month. Total rent equals $6,000 monthly. Your mortgage payment equals $2,800 monthly. After expenses, insurance, maintenance, property tax, you're still clearing $1,500 to $2,000 profit every single month. The debt is paying itself and putting money in your pocket every month. You starting to see the pattern? Wealthy people don't borrow money to look rich. They borrow money to become richer. A leased BMW impresses your neighbors. A cash-flowing apartment building funds your retirement. One is performance. The other is progress. And most Americans are so caught up in the performance they never make the progress. Way number 5, using inflation as a weapon. This one is sneaky. Most people have never heard this explained, but wealthy people, especially real estate investors, actually love inflation. Here's why. Let's say you lock in a $300,000 mortgage at a fixed rate today. Your payment is fixed. It never changes. But over the next 20 years, inflation kicks in. The dollar loses purchasing power. That $300,000 debt, in real terms, it gets cheaper every year. Meanwhile, your property value and rental income, both going up with inflation. In plain English, you borrowed expensive dollars, and you're paying back cheaper dollars, while your asset appreciates, while your rent income grows. This is why wealthy real estate investors sleep well during inflationary periods. They structured their debt to win when inflation hits, not lose. Way number 6, acquiring businesses using debt. This might be the most underrated wealth strategy in America. Instead of spending years building a business from scratch, some wealthy entrepreneurs just buy businesses that are already profitable, and they finance the purchase with debt. Think about this. A business doing $200,000 a year in profit is for sale for $600,000. You put down $150,000. Finance the rest. Loan payments cost you $60,000 a year. You're still clearing $140,000 profit annually. You bought an income stream with debt that pays for itself in 4 years. That's not a liability. That's an acquisition. And here's the contrast that should make you uncomfortable. Most Americans borrow money to buy a car that loses 20% of its value the second they drive off the lot. Wealthy Americans borrow money to buy businesses generating $200,000 a year. Both used debt. One got poorer. One got richer. The debt wasn't the problem. The target of the debt was the problem. Look around at how most Americans actually use debt. Credit cards maxed out on clothes and food delivery. Buy now, pay later for gadgets that'll be outdated in 18 months. Auto loans on cars they can't actually afford. Personal loans for vacations. Every single one of these creates payments without creating income. That's the broke cycle, and millions are stuck in it right now. The wealthy ask one question before every debt decision. Will this debt make me money? Not. Can I afford the monthly payment? Not. Does this look impressive? Will this make me money? If the answer is no, they pass. That one filter eliminates 90% of destructive financial decisions. Now let's keep it real. Not every wealthy person uses debt aggressively. Warren Buffett is famously conservative with leverage. Dave Ramsey built an empire teaching people to avoid debt entirely. The point isn't that debt is always good. The point is, used strategically on income-producing assets, it can be a powerful wealth accelerator. Because debt has a dark side too, and we can't ignore it. When markets crash, when businesses fail, when tenants stop paying rent, debt becomes a crisis fast. 2008 proved that. Millions of Americans lost everything because they were over-leveraged. The wealthy who survived, they had cash reserves, conservative debt ratios, exit strategies. Discipline separates wealth builders from cautionary tales. The biggest financial mistake Americans make isn't using debt. It's using debt on the wrong things. A $30,000 car loan on a depreciating asset equals financial drain. A $30,000 business loan on an income-producing asset equals potential wealth builder. Same amount, same interest rate, completely different financial outcomes. Picture two people, same age, same income, same credit score. Person A borrows $50,000 for luxury purchases over 5 years. Person B borrows $50,000 to buy a rental property or small business. 10 years later, Person A is still paying off stuff they don't even own anymore. Person B has an asset worth potentially $100,000 plus generating monthly income. Same debt, different targets, different financial futures. Because wealth isn't built by looking successful. It's built by owning things that generate value while you sleep. Real estate that appreciates. Businesses that produce cash flow. Investments that compound. These are the engines of generational wealth. And debt, used correctly, can be the fuel that powers those engines. So the real takeaway isn't go get more debt. The real lesson is start asking a different question. Not how do I look rich, but what assets can I own that make me richer? Not what can I afford to borrow for, but will this debt put money in my pocket or take money out? That mindset shift alone is worth more than any raise you'll ever get. So here's what I want you to think about. If someone wired you $500,000 tomorrow with zero strings attached, would you buy things? Or would you buy assets? Drop your honest answer in the comments. Genuinely curious. Backhand index pointing down. And if this video changed how you think about debt and money, you already know the move. Stick around because we're just getting started. Money with wings.